This training will cover both ECC as well as HANA. That's the first thing. Because a lot of guys have requested that they are currently working on ECC system, so they will also need to know the ECC part. And then obviously when you try to switch your job, the interview will ask you. The interviewer will ask you on HANA also. Even though after hiring he may not give you HANA work, but at the time of hiring, they want a person who has HANA knowledge. So we will be covering both ECC as well as HANA. So initially the training will go on ECC, and we will cover entire stuff on ECC first. So that will go like 2 months. Okay, 2 months. ECC will be 2 months. Once we cover the entire controlling in ECC, right, then we move on to HANA to learn about the changes, what changes have been done, right? So that will again go around 2 months, right? So ultimately, I'm planning for a training duration of 4 months total. Okay. And now coming to the syllabus, how we are going to do. So we'll starting with initially, since for controlling, we need to set up our system of FI, right? So FI setup is needed before you go to controlling. So we'll start with FI setup. When I say FI setup, let me make it little big so that you guys can easily see it. Okay. So when I say FI setup, so I'm referring to the company code setup with all the related setting. So that entire process runs. Your AP process should run, AR process should run, your taxes are not bothered because controlling does not has nothing to do with tax, right? Taxes are only in finance. Controlling does not affect your tax. I mean, tax does not affect your controlling part. So AP, AR, asset process should run, right? So these are needed. And then for these, obviously, you need all the setup, then master data of customer, vendor, material, asset, everything, right? Then we will go on controlling. So in controlling, we'll start with basics first. When I say basics, which means the little background, what is cost object, what is controlling area, right? Why do we need controlling first of all? Why FI is not sufficient? Those theory part, which will be like 1 hour discussion kind of thing. And we'll discuss on the overview of cost center, what is cost center, what is internal order, what is WBS, right? Those overviews, all that will come in basics. And then we will do the setup part, controlling area setup, right? We'll set up the controlling area, and then things will start. We'll start with cost element, accounting. So we'll learn what is primary cost element, what is secondary cost element, why do we have two different kinds of cost elements, right? Which one is used when do you use primary, when do you use secondary, what is the effect of using primary, what is the effect of using secondary, right? Those things. And then we'll learn about cost center accounting. So what is the purpose of cost center, what functionalities are there, what is meant by hierarchy, right? So I'll write here hierarchy, master data, right? What fields are there in master data, what does it impact, significance of each field, right? And then we'll talk about the month end cycles, month end allocation cycles, right? Why do we have these cycles, what is the use of these cycles, how do we use it, right? So every month end there are certain cycles that are run, so we'll learn them, which is like assessment cycle or distribution cycle, right? Those things. And then we'll talk about obviously cost center planning. In fact, planning will come first. Reports will always be there, even if I write or not write, but reports will always be there. So planning will go first and month end allocation cycle will go last. So these things will be done, and then we'll go to profit center accounting. Okay, we'll learn what is the use of profit center, how business creates profit center, right? On what basis they decide which hierarchy to use, what kind of hierarchy and master data. And then obviously there is something called profit center derivation, and then document splitting. Document splitting. Okay, so you would have heard or may not have heard. Document splitting is something used, right, for generating or let's say for populating profit center. So we'll learn what is document splitting, and nowadays document splitting is a very hot term. In almost every interview, they will ask you. They will ask you about document splitting in almost every interview. What is it? How? What configuration is done? Why it is done? All those things. And then after profit center accounting, we'll go to internal orders. There we'll understand what is internal order, how it is different from cost center, right? What is the use of internal order? So I'll call it master data, and then your budget and availability control, right? And then we'll talk about settlement. What is meant by settlement? Why do we settle at the first, right? What is the need for settlement? And then comes how it is done, right? What configuration is done? What is meant by settlement? So those things we'll see. And then again, there are few things like status management. In status, again, there are two things. One is system status versus your user status. What is it? What is status? What is system status? What is user status, right? How do they affect a transaction? Those things will be covered here. And then after we'll go to WBS, or let's say I'll call it WBS only. I'll not call it project system. I'll call it WBS. Work breakdown structure. So we'll see what is work breakdown structure, what is meant by hierarchy, right? What is the master data of WBS, how it is different from cost center, how it is different from internal order. So all these things are going to come here. Again, all these things. So IU and WBS are very similar, but there is still some difference. I'll call it hierarchy. Okay, master data hierarchy, budget availability control, settlement, status. So all these are my basic controlling. Okay, so whatever I have written from here to here, all this is my basic controlling. When I say basic controlling, anybody who says that he knows controlling must know at least this much, right? This is the base. This is basic controlling. And then we talk about advanced topics, right? Advanced topics. When somebody says he is a CO consultant, controlling consultant, then he must know all these things, advanced topics. In advanced topics, I'm talking about product costing, right? When I say product costing, there are two things. One is called standard cost, one is called actual cost. Right. So we'll look at both. We'll understand what is standard cost, what is actual cost, what configuration you do for costing, right? Basically, you're trying to produce something and you're trying to come up at a plan cost. What should be my cost? How much cost I'm going to incur, right, for producing that? We'll do all the setup, entire configuration from scratch, from creation of finished product, raw material, semi-finished, right, setting up all the configuration which is needed like costing variant, your production what do you call it, production version, right, bomb routing, everything will be setting up, cost component structure. So we'll see how standard costing works in SAP, and it will be from very scratch so that you can understand each and every point, right? And you will know if any issue comes, because we'll be facing a lot of issues while we do it, lot of errors will come. And I never do anything outside class. Whatever we will be doing configuration, it will be on screen share only. I do not do any configuration outside. Okay, so you'll know every error, why it is coming, from where it is coming, what configuration we did, right, to fix that, where it is connected. After 2 3 classes you will be able to figure out from where it might be coming, right, any standard issue. And product costing is a very standard functionality of SAP. So almost every time you know from where it is connected. Is it a BOM issue? Is it a routing issue? Is it a configuration issue? Right? Where can be the problem? And actual costing is basically the actual cost of production, which you will get to know at the end of the production, at the end of the month. So plan costing or standard costing, that is at start of the month. Actual costing is at the end of the month. Not every company will do actual costing. Actual costing very few countries will do, where there is a legal requirement that they have to report their inventory at actual, right? Few countries will have that. They'll have legal requirement that companies need to report inventories at actual. There you need to calculate actual cost. If you just want to see your efficiency of production, right, then you just will use standard cost. No need to go for actual. Now, actual cost, there is something called material ledger. It's a functionality of SAP which enables to get the actual cost, right? Functionality of SAP, what does it mean? Basically, SAP has given you all that functionality. You need to run certain T codes. You need to activate something. You need to run certain T codes at month end, and system will calculate and show you this is your actual cost. Right, that is your material ledger. So we'll go deeper into it. What exactly it does, right? What are the steps that we need to run? How do you see what is your actual cost, right? Those things will come here. Standard cost is totally different, and material ledger is totally different. And then after this, we'll go to production orders, or let's say different scenarios of production. There are different scenarios. One is called MTS, make to stock, wherein you are producing your finished product to stock them, and you will be selling to customer when there is an order, right? You're not doing any order based production. You are in a business of producing and keeping it, right? And later on, sales will happen. So there you follow what you call it, production order or process order. Right. Then we'll talk about make to stock. Make to stock is basically someone has placed the order, and that's why you're producing it, right? Unless and until there is a customer order, you will not produce anything. For
I think
example,
to order,
yeah, hmm, go ahead.
make to stop, not actually make to order.
Ah, sorry,
MTS
sorry.
is
I'm saying, yeah, yeah, yeah. Make to order, not stock. Make to order, right? So make to order is there is an order, and based on that order, you are doing the production. For example, let's say you are producing some fighter jets, right? Now, fighter jets, you will not produce and stock it, right? Once there is an order, somebody places the order, then only you'll manufacture it. It may take you 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, right? Some big things, right? So big, the items which are huge, which takes lot of amount to manufacture, lot of time to manufacture, right? Huge investment is involved. That is always order based. So that scenario we'll see how this scenario works in SAP, how this scenario works in SAP. We'll talk about production order and process order, how they are different, right? And then we will run the entire cycle. So if you say here, let's say production order, there are various steps. Now, once a production order is created, which means the planning team, production planning team, they have released a production order, right? Which means they have informed the production team to start producing. And shop floor people will start production based upon the order that they received. Now the shop floor team is producing. Obviously, they will consume raw material, they will consume labor, they will consume, let's say, electricity or something, right? Which is their indirect cost. So once your production starts, in system, what they do is confirmation. They call it confirmation. Confirmation is basically the shop floor manager. He will be confirming how much quantity of raw material is consumed, how much quantity of labor or machine is consumed, right? How much finished goods we have produced. So that confirmation is done on daily basis. When you confirm something, when you say we have consumed this much, which means you have incurred cost, right? Your material is consumed, so cost has been incurred. Your labor is consumed, your machine has run for this many hours, so cost has been incurred, right? So confirmation happens. Then later on, if your production is not complete and you are at month end, you have to report WIP, work in progress, correct? If your production is going on, it is not ended, and you have arrived at month end, it's a month end, you have to report your WIP. So whatever is your current work in progress, you have to report it. So we have to see what configuration is needed for WIP, how it is done in SAP, right? And after, let's say, next month, you entered into next month and your production is over, everything is done. Now you will have something called variance, production variance, right? Variance is basically how much was your standard cost, target cost. It was 100 rupees. But how much we actually incurred? We actually incurred 108 rupees, which means 8 rupees is your variance, right? How system calculates variance, what configuration is needed. After variance, what happens? There is something called variance settlement. So I'll write here itself, variance settlement, right? So when you say variance settlement, which means you have noted down how much was the variance, right? And for what reason? Is it because of over consuming of material? Is it because of over consuming of labor or machine hours? Or is it because our material was costly? Right? Which factor is leading to this much of production variance? So that for that analysis, there is something called variance settlement, right? So we'll see all this. This is entire cycle will run and we'll see what is the financial impact at each point, right? When you do confirmation, what is the financial document generated? When you do WIP, what configuration is needed and what financial document is generated? When you do variance settlement, what configuration and what financial document is generated, right? And same is the case for process order. We'll see process order also, how it is different. When is production order used? When is process order used? So that we'll also discuss, right? Which company will prefer? Company will prefer production order or will they prefer process order? Which one they will prefer? And after this, we'll go to profitability analysis, right? Profitability analysis, and people also call it COPA, right? And nowadays, it has been given a new name, which is called margin analysis. In S4 HANA, they call it margin analysis. It's a name basically. So we'll see what is meant by profitability analysis, right? And there are different terminologies like operating concern. Then there is something called value fields. There is something called characteristics, COPA characteristics, right? Then we'll talk about COPA characteristics derivation, characteristic derivations, right? So similarly, many more things will come in COPA. So we'll see what is the purpose of COPA, why do we need this, why our FI and CO are not enough. What is the purpose of COPA, right? How it is used. Business is using this for basically arriving at, or let's say it's basically analysis tool. If I want to know my profit based upon certain combination, for example, I'm running this institute and I ask Rahul, tell me how much profit we made from students who are outside Pune, not from Pune, outside of Pune, that too who have done ABAP training, right? So this combination, now I'm putting a combination of area and a combination of training module, right? So any combination I can put. So for that analysis, similarly, business may ask how much profit we are making from this product, from this customer, from these many customers in this region by this channel, direct sales or indirect sales, right? So all those combinations business can find out the report. So that is your COPA. So we'll see in detail what exactly it is, right? And how do we use that? How our reporting is done, right? And what is meant by margin analysis, that will be taken when we go to HANA. And there are a few more things here. There is something called costing based COPA. I should have written it little above. Costing based COPA versus account based COPA. We'll see that. What is costing based COPA? What is account based COPA? Right. So with this, our CO training will be basically we all will be covering all these things in advanced topic, product costing, and then different scenarios of production, and then this, right? And there is actual costing also, material ledger. Now this entire thing will be doing in ECC first, so that you get your base correct. And once you are very comfortable with ECC, you have learned all this in ECC. Then we'll be going on to S4 HANA and we'll be doing the same things. We'll be checking it out if there any change, right? Because changes will not be everywhere. Changes will be here and there, right? Few changes. It will not be everywhere. We'll see what change has been done, where, what exactly has been changed.